Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to Olainfarm Investor Webinar. Our hosts for today are the CEO of the company, Mr. Jeroen Weites, and Investor Relations Advisor, Mr. Janis Dubrovskis. We will start the webinar with the company's presentation, after which we will hold a question and answer session. I would like to remind you, please type your questions in the question box available in the setting panel. Now I would like to turn the conference over to the gentlemen who will proceed with the presentation. Jeroen, Janis, please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Maya, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see so many participants in our quarterly webinar on ongoing impact of coronavirus. My name is Janis Dubrovskis. I'm an Investor Relations Advisor. Today's presentation will have three parts. We'll start with the past events and our financial results for the first quarter 2020. Then we will elaborate more about COVID-19 impact on our business. And at the end, we'll answer your questions. So, sales in the first quarter this year were 32.4 million euros, which is a decline by 7% if compared to the same quarter last year. The main reason for lower sales is due to the fact that we had extra deliveries of our final dosage products to Russia at the end of 2019 due to expected changes in regulations. The second major impact was from ongoing review of our sales processes. Our goal is to do business with Tier 1 distributors in all of our main markets. We started business with a new distribution partner in Ukraine, and we also opened a subsidiary in Russia. We believe that these steps will have a long-term positive effect. If we look at our sales figures during the last 12 months, we can see a continuation of an upward trend. Trailing 12 months revenues have increased by 5% to 134.9 million euros. Segment-wise, half of the sales were achieved by final dosage forms and roughly a quarter by pharmacies. In absolute terms, all 5 out of 6 segments were growing. Final dosage form segment delivered a 16.2 million euro result, which is a decline by 20% when compared to the previous year's first quarter. At the same time, revenues for our retail arm, pharmacies, increased to 74 million euros, which is 13% more than a year ago. Here we can see an impact of coronavirus when customers in Latvia rushed to buy extra stock of medicine during the first weeks of extraordinary situation. Compressions materials segment and wholesale segment both had 2 million euros in sales in the first quarter this year. Compressions materials sales increased by 1% and wholesale segment by 43% against the results of the last year's first quarter. Revenues of chemicals segment was 1.6 million euros, that is 1% more than the last year and 45% more than compared to the fourth quarter 2019. All other operations such as Silvanols and medical clinics are combined in other segment. This segment had 3.2 million euros in sales, which is an increase by 4%. Let's have a look at our final dosage forms segment in more detail. Shares in ranking of our top 10 products were mostly affected by already mentioned extra sales to Russia that took place in 2019. Thus, no offense share increased by 3 percentage points and had a 22% share. Furamag Furasol increased by 2 percentage points to 18%. Adaptol increased by 4 percentage points to 16%. On the other hand, Neromidin was the only main product with a declining share to 12%. Market-wise, Latvia's share expanded by 7 percentage points to 36%. This was achieved due to successful operations of our retail business. Share of Belarus increased by 2% to 17%, 2 percentage points to 17%. But Russia's share decreased to 14%, which is a drop by 11 percentage points. Group's earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization in the first quarter this year was 4.6 million euros, which is by 57% less than during the same quarter last year and by 37% less if compared to the fourth quarter of the last year. Trailing 12-month EBITDA amounted to 27.6 million euros, which with EBITDA margin of 20.4%. Quarterly net profit was 2.1 million euros, down by 74% if compared to the last year's first quarter. Net margin declined to 6.5%. We'll discuss reasons affecting profitability in the next slide. Overall, there were two positive and two negative factors affecting net profit during the first quarter this year. Positive factors are lower market prices, which were by 2 million euros less than a year ago. At the same time, net other income improved by 0.6 million euros. On the other hand, net profit was affected by a decline in gross profit by 2.9 million euro and negatively affected by foreign exchange losses, which had a cumulative result of 5.6 million euros. This was caused by Russian ruble depreciation in March this year. However, now we can observe strengthening of the exchange rate that will limit forex losses going forward. Segment-wise, our main profit-driving segment has been final dosage forms, which brought in 4.4 million euros of earnings before tax. This is by 17% less than a year ago. A significant amount of profit was made with product deliveries to Russia at the end of 2019. Therefore, it was expected that profit would decline in the first quarter this year. Profit before tax in the wholesale segment increased by 45% and reached 0.8 million euros. Pharmacy segment generated 0.5 million euros, and it is by 35% better than the last year. Compression materials segment is the only one that operated with a loss during the first quarter this year. In the times of uncertainty, value of financial flexibility increases tremendously. Our group has historical high cash balance of 20.2 million euros. Leverage ratios during the first quarter this year continued to improve. For example, debt service coverage ratio jumped to 3.6 and net debt to EBITDA was effectively 0. There were three contributing factors. Cash position increased by 5 million euros. Outstanding bank loans decreased by 1.5 million euros, and overall debt payments declined by 2.6 million euros. Such strong financial position serves as a basis for future investment in fixed assets and R&D, and of course, dividend payments. With this, I would like to end the historical review of first quarter 2020 and touch a bit of the most hot topic during the last few months, COVID-19 impact. Here I would like to ask our chairman, Mr. Jeroen Weites, to comment.
Thank you, Janis. The main task we've taken several safety related to our employees and our production site, and I can tell you that not a lot disrupted and the safety measures are still in place and also forward until at least the summer break. Our employees at Olainfarm are they get regularly instructed for their health condition, and also the people that are coming into the premises here in Olainfarm in Olain also get a regular temperature checks of their health. On top of that, people in the office we allowed working from home, and we see that this is working very well. What we see, of course, around our markets, so not only in Latvia, but I would say definitely also in Russia and the Ukraine as big markets, is that a lot of doctors also stopped, let's say, allowing patients to enter into their office. So that also means they did not allow any medical representatives to enter into their place, into their office. The same for pharmacies. So still to conduct our promotional efforts, we did meetings and do our promotional calls either via WebEx or via teleconference, and this is working quite well. So with this, we stay connected with our customers.
Thank you. And let's now start with our last section of this webinar Q&A session. Maya, please tell us if there are any questions.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Let's now proceed with the questions indeed. So far, we have received first question here within the webinar, and it's the following. Why gross margin was lower compared to the previous periods? Gentlemen, please.
Yes, the gross margin was indeed lower during the first quarter this year, and it was due to the fact that we produced less products this quarter. Some of the deliveries were made at the end of the last year, which pushed higher gross margins during the last month of 2019. And the second impact was also from depreciating Russian ruble.
Thank you, Janis. The following question. Taking into account that there were sound issues, could you please elaborate on the COVID-19 effect on the company once more? Thank you.
Again, let's talk about people, and let's talk about our performance. When it comes to our production, we secured our production in a way that we had no interruption of our production since COVID-19 was, let's say, announced. So our people are coming to work and our production facility is operating as usual. When it comes to people, Olainfarm takes care about their people and about their health. So we have taken a lot of precaution measurements when it comes to temperature check, when it comes to the 2 meters distance, when it comes to hygiene, all kinds of things. And I can report you that none of the employees at Olainfarm, when we're talking about 1,070 employees, is affected by COVID-19. When it comes to our performance, our products were shipped from our warehouse to our distributors. We had to overcome some challenges for example, when it was crossing the borders or other kind of things, but we were able to move our products as usual. But of course, what we see is that, again, some of the doctors are not seeing any patients at this moment because they basically have closed their office. Some of the pharmacies have closed also their office. So for this, of course, you see, let's say, the demand from the market. You see some dynamics there. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. So we see some instability at that point. Another item when it comes to COVID-19 and our materials, immediately in the beginning, we have looked into our raw materials and also our intermediates that we need to buy. And I can tell you that we managed to buy enough of, let's say, raw materials of our materials to guarantee our production at least until the end of this year.
Thank you. Let's proceed with the next question. When are you expecting the financial ratios to increase? Please.
What we will announce in the coming weeks is our strategy. Also at the last conference, I promised the audience to present our strategy. So in the coming 2 to 3 weeks, we'll announce a special event on our strategy moving forward, including the financial ratios that will improve.
Thank you. Could you please confirm who is currently the CEO of your largest shareholder, Olainfarm? Are the restrictions not allowing Olainfarm to vote at any shareholder meetings still in place?
As before, we have also commented that topics related to our shareholders are out of scope of our current management board of Olainfarm. Therefore, we will not comment any further shareholder disputes or anything related to Olainfarm.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Will Olainfarm pay dividends for the year 2019?
The management board of Olainfarm has submitted the dividend to the supervisory council, and they have taken this at their level, and they will bring it to the shareholders for approval. But basically, and that is also published on our website, we follow the dividend policy of payouts of 20%, and to be exactly 20.7 to 20.27% of the group's parent company audited net profit. That is what we have submitted to the supervisory council. I would like to remind everybody that at the shareholders meeting, the annual report has to be approved by the shareholders, and from that moment, then also the discussion and the decision can be made about our proposal from the management board to the supervisory council regarding dividend payout. That's the process.
Thank you. The next question. Please explain in more detail, how did you reduce selling expenses?
In general, when it comes to selling expenses, probably is also mentioned marketing expenses. In the past, we were working with external partners when it comes to marketing and support of our marketing. Like Janis was saying, we have opened now our own rep offices, especially in Russia. This allows us to bring in our own marketing team, and it also gives a much better control of our marketing expenses. So we believe by doing it ourselves, by doing the promotional efforts ourselves with our own medical representatives, by having firm control about the tier 1 distributors, we can decrease when it comes to the cost, and we can improve our marketing expenses ratio versus sales ratio.
Next question. What is the status of preparation for the new regulations in Russia? What are the latest news about the implementation?
Let me also go back a few months, because I think that's also affecting our sales performance. So again, it was announced last year that the serialization, because we are talking about the serialization, it is not specific only for Russia, because the serialization, so basically that's a track and trace of our of medicine products in general, is also starting and happening in Europe, so it's all over, so not just in Russia. Was announced last year to be introduced in January of this year. Then it was postponed. Then it was postponed until June of this year. But a few weeks ago, it is announced that most probably it will be postponed to January 2021. That is not official yet, but that's the assumption, because it has passed already certain levels at the parliament in Russia. So by having said that, there was the 6 million upfront, let's say, stocking happened in Q4, and for that reason, that is affecting our sales performance in Q1. Because if you would move the 6 million of Q4 to this year Q1, then we would have had a brilliant Q1, much better even than Q1 of 2019. But because of that reason, the sales is what it was presented now. And yeah, what we see now again is most probably a postponement of the serialization in Russia again because of COVID-19.
Thank you. Currently, all the questions are answered. So while we are waiting for any additional questions to come, I would like to remind everybody that, as always, the recording of the webinar will be available in the Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel and also published as a separate company's announcement. So I see we have one more question. So let's proceed with that. When do you plan to convene the annual general meeting, and does it depend on the Olainfarm's ability to, does it depend on Olainfarm's ability to vote on the AGM?
Thank you for asking this question, because I think it's an important one. Again, we should not underestimate the COVID-19 situation we are currently in. When it comes to our general shareholder meeting, basically we have to follow, and we have to follow two laws. One is the commercial law, and one is the financial instrument market law. When it comes to the commercial law, that clearly says that we can have the shareholder meeting, and that we can even do it via posting, so via mail or even via electronically. When it comes to the financial instrument market law, and basically this is the law that we are following, it clearly says that also we can do by mail, by post, or by electronic, as long as that is also mentioned in our policy or in our statutes of the company, and we have not mentioned that in our statutes. So for that reason, we are waiting until June 9, when we understand from the government about COVID-19 situation and whether that will be lifted. Based on that information, we will immediately announce after June 9 the shareholder meeting to be held over the summertime.
Thank you. Next question. Are there any new comments on the share buyout?
As we are aware that such an initiative was submitted to the company and to the Financial Capital Markets Committee at the beginning of May, and so far we know that there were some issues with this proposal, and that the regulator asked to clarify it. We don't have any other information so far.
Okay, thank you. So all the questions currently are answered. So gentlemen, thank you for the presentation and given answers. Participants, thank you for joining. Janis, Jeroen, would you like to give some closing remarks?
No, thank you so much for listening into our Q1 report. Again, we discussed the shareholder meeting. Hopefully, after June 9, we can talk about the shareholder meeting, and we will announce the shareholder meeting. But again, all depends on the Latvian government, how they will lift the situation and what kind of rules and procedures they will put in place. When it comes to the strategy, also we will announce immediately next week or the week after about the date for this event, where we will present our strategy and basically our 5-year strategy moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, participants, for joining. The webinar is closed.